Show. In today's interview, we are going to be confronting the founder of the HEX coin, Richard Hart. I'm super excited to bring him on. I want to hear everything that Richard's got to share. He says he will talk to me and answer any questions I've got until I fall asleep. So I brought a monster and I brought a coffee, brought to you by StreamYard. So shout out to StreamYard, link in the description down below. All right, folks, welcome aboard, Richard. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing very good.
Awesome. So I want to know, HEX coin has a lot of, it gets a lot of attention. It gets a lot of both positive attention and negative attention. I want to make it clear up front, I'm not paid for this interview. I'm not an investor in HEX or Pulse or Pulsechain. And I want to understand from you, why do you think HEX coin has maybe the mixed reputation that some folks say it has? And then how would you characterize it?
Well, for the same reason that Bitcoin did. I was in Bitcoin since 2011. I used to mine it on my own computer. I would just double click an exe file on my computer and my fans would spin up real hard. And a few times a day, 50 Bitcoin would come into my wallet. That's $250,000. So
in today's dollars, yeah.
I think it's more actually. So 50 times 50K is, yeah, 2.5 million. It was off by a factor of 10. So, you know, but the trick here is that back when I was doing that, they were only 50 cents each. So now I'm bragging about getting 2.5 million every few hours. But back then you're getting 25 bucks. So you're really bragging about having 25 bucks and having held for a long time. So in Bitcoin, when I first saw it, I thought it was a scam. Oh, you guys are going to just print money out of thin air. That's not going to work. And then I saw it on Reddit when it was somebody sold their house for $1 for it. I was like, all right, that guy probably just lost his house. So then I saw the Wired News article where they were using it on the dark net. And I was like, oh, there's a market. It's working. So I got in, and I got in at the top with everybody else. I helped make the top at $30. And then it went down to $2. That's like a 95% loss. Everyone said it was a scam. I thought it was a scam. But now we find out it's the highest performing asset that's ever existed in the history of mankind. It went from a penny to $69,000, a return of 6.9 million fold, 690 million%, and people are pretending like that didn't happen. That was a long time ago. That Bitcoin has had a price since 2010. It's 2022 now. That's 12 years. So you know,
you're making the analogy essentially that HEX is maybe, it seems like, an earlier form of Bitcoin. That, hey, look, you can still get HEX now, 28 cents or whatever, right?
Yep.
Now, one of the things you mentioned is that with Bitcoin, we don't print money out of thin air because we're mining it, deflationary currency, limited.
Oh, no. It's not. No, none of what you said is true. That's all entirely false. Bitcoin is not deflationary at all. It is inflationary. Miners sell Bitcoin. They harm the price. They buy electricity and mining hardware. So Bitcoin's all about decentralization. But in fact, there's only 5 or 6 mining pools that do all of the mining. And there's only 3 or 4 companies that make all of the mining hardware. And those are the people that make all of the money from the mining, because the economic theory that the cost or resources allocated to extract a resource will trend towards and approach asymptotically the value of the resource. And so as the Bitcoin price ratchets up, the wasting and destroying of the environment with electricity, which you could say Bitcoin's 80% renewable. Fine, I used to be a Bitcoin miner. I know exactly how much I paid for my electricity, and I know exactly how much pollution it generated. It wasn't clean energy. So, and then the idea that a decreasing inflation rate is somehow deflation is hilarious. You're getting less inflation over time, but the value, dollar cost of that inflation is higher and higher because the price keeps ratcheting up because they keep on-ramping new users. So people always... You get this backwards. You described a cost and a negative externality, which is bad for everybody, bad for the environment, bad for the price, but you think that it's actually a benefit. And so you got to know the difference between a feature, a benefit, and a cost. And Bitcoin mining is a cost that's bad for everybody, and you don't need it anymore. There's tons of proof of stake networks for years, and they've all been less attacked and more secure than proof of work networks.
And that's one of the big arguments that Bitcoin maximalists will have, is that Bitcoin is much more secure. And that is why we have proof of work. Though in the future, once we've mined
less secure.
Coins, we expect a transition. What I'm curious, though, for the difference in HEX is that HEX is a proof of stake coin.
Nope.
And we do have a set inflation rate. I believe it's 3.69%. Can you tell me why have any inflation at all then if you're opposed to the mining style inflation in Bitcoin? Because you're essentially saying, hey, the cost of the shovels are going up, so it's becoming more expensive to actually operate the network rather than less expensive, which creates more waste. That's your argument. Why have any inflation then in the hex coin?
I think we've hit the uncanny valley. So it's like Dunning-Kruger for smart people. Cryptocurrency and trading are two things that have very high skill caps, and then like 130 IQ guys figure that they're good at everything else, so they'll be good at this. But in reality, they're just good enough to be dangerous. So let me clarify some things. First of all, HEX is not proof of stake. It is a hybrid proof of stake, proof of work. We use proof of work on the Ethereum network for transactions, and we use proof of stake just for inflation. Because of that, it's more secure than Bitcoin. Bitcoin's had 2 inflation bugs where anyone could mint as many free coins as they want. One of them was executed on the network in 2010, and they had to roll the chain back because someone minted 184 billion extra free Bitcoin. The same bug, created in a different way, reappeared 2 years ago and was discovered, instead of being exploited, by a Bitcoin Cash developer and responsibly disclosed to the Bitcoin core development team. He could have minted as many free Bitcoin as he wanted as well. And why do we keep getting inflation bugs in Bitcoin? Because it is spaghetti code that is not modular, that has no security audits, that has no written spec, and the wallet code touches the consensus code, touches the networking code. So when you try and improve the network, oopsie, you introduce an inflation bug. It's the most common and vile bug in all of cryptocurrency. XLM has had an inflation bug. Hacker dumped it on the market. Ravencoin had a 10% inflation bug. Hacker dumped it on the market. Bytecoin, Monero, inflation bugs. AVAX, inflation bug. Bitcoin, inflation bugs. You know how you solve inflation bugs? You lock your consensus code in a contract that can never be edited or changed, which is what HEX has done, so that you can improve the network all you want and you don't accidentally introduce an inflation bug. Bitcoin.org was hacked 2 months ago. Hex.com's never been hacked.
The examples. Just a question for you while we're on this. So I know that HEX is built on Ethereum,
Yes.
ERC20, so it's a layer 2 solution. Are you essentially suggesting
not really.
that a
Layer
layer 2
one.
solution is hybrid because it inherits the proof of work of Ethereum? Or could you clarify that maybe for the
Sure.
viewers?
You can only mint inflation if you had staked. And so inflation's proof of stake, but you can only also mint that inflation if you submit the transaction to the network, which requires proof of work. Now, all that will matter a lot less because I've already forked the Ethereum network and it uses proof of stake, and you can go use the test net right now. And you can see all of your coins that you had on the Ethereum network for free, the world's largest airdrop, by changing one setting in your MetaMask. And then your keys, you don't have to sign up, you don't have to do anything. Your keys already work on my network. And the snapshot was from 2 months ago for testnet. It removes all of that energy waste. It removes all of those negative externalities. It has higher throughput, lower fees. It's amazing, right? So I'm telling you how it works now, but in 2 months, that won't even matter as much. See, like it's unmutable. We can't change it. The only thing we can do is give people free coins on another network. And then new users that on-ramp can choose whether to pay $100 to do a Uniswap swap and $20 to send an ERC20, or they could pay a penny on our network. And I think the penny is a better deal.
So to be clear, the proof of work you're talking about is the proof of work of the actual Ethereum transaction,
Currently, yes.
not
Yes.
anything to do. Okay,
Exactly.
fine.
Yes.
So now you've also described it, at least when you go to your website, you've described the HEX coin as a top cryptocurrency certificate of deposit, potentially even the first and maybe even only. Technically, a certificate deposit is a savings account that's FDIC insured. Do you think that some people might
Not
be
really.
confused by this?
Well, it depends on where you live. So the term certificate of deposit is only popular in the United States. Every other country uses a different term. In Europe and Asia, they're called bonds. In Canada, they're called guaranteed investment certificates. And when you put your coat at a coat check, you get a receipt, which is a certificate of deposit. You deposited your coat at the coat check. And so cryptocurrencies attempt to do useful things online in decentralized, trustless, 100% uptime ways. And we make analog. So Bitcoin tried to be a peer-to-peer digital currency, failed entirely. And then it tried to be programmable money, failed entirely. However, it did digital gold really well and went up 6.5 million fold in price, which is a bigger market share and a bigger use case. So congrats to all of us. So even though Bitcoin failed entirely to be a currency, people still call it a currency. It's called a cryptocurrency, and it's even taxed as such. And thus, when we try and make something that approximates a certificate of deposit, in reality, there's very little similar at all. Certificates of deposit at your bank have very low volatility. The HEX price has went up 1,000,000% in 623 days and dropped 75% like 6 times. So it's extremely volatile. There's really no similarity other than we monetize